Hi there, my name's Lee. I'm the artist behind A Prickly Production at ko-fi.com/A Prickly Production. You can also find me on Blue Sky under the same username. And this is my first YouTube video ever, which includes my first voiceover ever, so we'll see how this goes. If I become too obnoxious, I suppose you can always mute me. My apologies in advance. Let's do this. So, I was having a pretty brain dead day yesterday, and I wasn't feeling particularly creative, so I decided that I would draw my leopard gecko, Yor. She is a black knight leopard gecko. She is adorable, so freaking cute. And because she's a black knight leopard gecko, what that means is that she's basically 99.9% black, whereas most leopard geckos are yellow with black dots on them. They end up looking a little bit like leopards. Yor is mostly black. She is, I adopted her from a reptile rescue because her previous, I guess the person who was breeding the geckos had a hoarding situation going on, unfortunately. And so she was in a pretty bad place before. And the reptile rescue was able to nurse her, and out of 600 leopard geckos, I guess, that they rescued from this one hoarder, they were able to nurse her and 199 other leopard geckos back to health. And so I adopted this one. I did not mean to adopt a leopard gecko, but I did, and I don't regret it. She's freaking adorable. It was just a little bit of an impulse thing at the time. But also she reminds me of a dragon. Anytime that she poses and she just shows off her little butt like this, it's so cute. Also, leopard gecko feet are very fun to draw. They're like squiggles. So that's why I had the caption there. I should also mention that they are a very similar shape to the Taino symbol for cookies. I had a whole rant here about how awesome cookies are. They're little tree frogs from Puerto Rico. And they're pretty fantastic. They're pretty fantastic. So, had a whole rant here, but my video was 2.5 hours long, and I figured that nobody would want to watch or have necessarily on the background a 2.5 hour long video, with random ranting. And actually, I guess that's a lie, because I will often put on 2.5 hour long videos of random ranting just to have something on in the background, and it makes me feel like I have company sometimes, so that's not entirely impossible. Let's see. Oh yeah, I wanted to work on watercolor paper. I think I just wanted to do a postcard originally. And I have postcard paper, but it's all like postcard watercolor paper. And then that idea was getting too complicated because, remember, I did not have the braincell when I was doing this. So I was having problems focusing and being able to do that. And so I decided, well, whatever, I still want to work with watercolors. So I just grabbed the tiniest watercolor paper that I had, which is about artist color size, and this ended up being like a hot press watercolor paper, which I've never used before. It's very, very smooth. I'm used to working with stuff that's a lot more toothy than this was, but it was actually a lot of fun. It was still fun, even though it was not what I'm used to working with. And even if my leopard gecko ended up coming out looking a lot more Muppety than I originally intended. I was using my phone to record, and that's where all of my gecko pictures are, so I didn't have my references available. I had to do like a pre-drawing and then use that pre-drawing as my reference point, so that's why she ends up looking considerably different. Just gonna gesture wildly about what I'm doing there. I don't recall exactly what I said. But now the video is going too fast to make it anything worthwhile to recapture other than gesticulating wildly and, about Puerto Rico and leopard geckos, probably. Like, I might be talking about how cute she is. I do recall saying that multiple times throughout my original video. Oh, what I'm using right now is it's like a rewettable graphite ink tinged in blue. And something that I recall about it is that it is made in Australia. And I apologize to Australia as someone living in the United States, because I know that our country's government is being super stupid right now, and I don't know if they're trying to like target Australia for anything in particular. I don't think so. I haven't heard it. But just any foreign country, any foreigner who's like watching this, I apologize. Any immigrant who's watching this to our country, I apologize. I'm not happy about it either. Any citizen who is suffering through this, I apologize. I really did try to warn people ahead of time that, hey, we really don't want to vote this guy in. We just did anything else, you guys, anything else. And despite my efforts and many others, it just wasn't enough, and here we are. And so now we keep on fighting instead and draw leopard geckos and talk about things, talk about our feelings, talk about how different art materials come from other countries. Except for this walnut ink, this was actually made in the USA. It looks a lot like sepia. I really love it. I mean, you're not seeing it yet because I'm still using the black marker, but the walnut ink, which is the little vial, is there. Oh, I would also like to remind you to call your senators to filibuster the SAVE Act, because that is something that's really going to screw us over even further. They are, when I say they, I'm talking like, Fox News and a lot of the Republican, a lot of the Republican Congress people are trying to sell it like, oh, well, we're just making sure that illegal migrants are not, that immigrants who are not supposed to be voting, that they don't vote, right? But we already have laws in place for that. And given how much crap we give immigrants to be able to even be in this country, and how many hoops we make them jump through to even be in this country legally, and now, even when they are in this country legally, how freaking ICE is like just kidnapping people off the street. They don't want to mess around. They know it's illegal to vote. They're not going to vote. They're not going to register to vote. So the SAVE Act is really just about making it more difficult for the rest of us to be able to vote, or for new people to register to vote, because you already have to prove that you're a U.S. citizen in order to be able to vote. And so they're just putting additional blocks in place for us in order to be able to do that. And it's especially harmful if you, for example, have are someone who has changed their name or changed their last name, because you need a birth certificate that matches your current name in order to be able to register to vote. And if you are someone who changed your last name because you're married, your birth certificate is obviously not going to match your married name. So that starts to cause some problems if you want to be able to vote. And so really it just kind of ends up being another voter suppression bill. We're not about that, okay? Or at least I certainly am not, which is why I'm telling you about it. Make sure that you call your senators to filibuster the SAVE Act, because they're just trying to save their own asses is what they're trying to do. And by they, I mean Republicans in Congress are just trying to save their own asses. So call a congressional switchboard, yell at them, or don't yell at them. Just call them repeatedly, Have you ever had somebody call you on the phone repeatedly? I don't know about you guys, but I find it horrible any time that the phone rings, especially if the phone keeps on ringing. It's very, very stressful. And what's funny is that it's not just me. It's stressful to the people picking up the phone in Congress as well. Isn't that fun? We can use the phones against them. So do it. Call them. Call them every day, repeatedly. 2 minutes on your part every day. If we all do that, that's so many phone calls that they gotta put up with. It's fantastic. So just think of that. They're suffering a lot more than you are. And we should make it so. I used a couple of different greens here. Mostly this was watercolors. I did also use that black Marabou Aqua Pen graphics marker thing. And this water brush. It's a brand new water brush. It's tiny to go along with the tiny paper. It was really cute. So I was just having fun with it. Totally ad-libbing at this point. It's 15 minutes and I didn't want to put on... Like, I can put on music in the background, you know, like cheap royalty-free music, and those are okay. Like, there are people who use those exclusively, and that's fine. They have other things to do. They don't feel like voicing over their stuff. That is okay. After a while, that music starts to get so old, and I get bored of it, and it's just not, you know, it's not something that I can have on in the background for like 10 minutes. So I figured for my first one, my first video, I would try voicing it over. Can I just say again how fun leopard gecko feet are to draw? They're just squiggles. It's like you doodled a hand and that's exactly what they look like. It's anatomically correct. Oh, so I was really bummed here. I had that pen, right, and it's a gel pen, and I have one in white and I have one in glittery, and somewhere I have one that's, or I thought I have one that is just this sort of wet look. And when I found the sparkly pen, I was like, oh, that's fantastic. I'm going to use this on the eye to give it that like wet eyeball look. That's going to be so cool. And then I looked at the pen more closely, and it turned out to be the glittery kind. I'm like, well, you know, it's not that I don't like this pen. It's just that this is not the place that I want to be using it. So I've moved like 8 times in the last 10 years, and my most recent move was back in December, but then I had to move out of my bedroom to fix it up. And I was out of the bedroom where all my art supplies normally are for a couple of weeks. And so my supplies are still kind of scattered everywhere. This is part of the reason why I have no braincell to work with lately. So, you know, I made do with what I had. I drew a leopard gecko. She's cute. Look at that fat tail. Look at that fat bottom girl. I love her so much. Originally, her name was supposed to be Jorge, and her name was still going to be Jorge. I was going to just call her Princess Whore. But then people gave me crap, and I was like, oh, if it'll get you to shut up. Like, it's a gecko. Get over it. But they didn't, and I was like, fine. I'm changing her name to Yor. And kind of like Spy X Family. Thorn Princess Yor. That's her name. Look at all the little dots. She's so cute. And that's it. Thanks for watching. And if you listen, thanks for listening.